This week we discover that fall still hasn't arrived in Alabama, and Stephen shares a couple Advent ideas that you can incorporate into your church or into your family. It's episode 36 of the Sustainable Ministry Show. When Jesus comes, we have to clean our rooms. All right, everybody, we are back again with the sustainable, I can't even say it sometimes, oh, it's terrible. All right, everybody, we are back again with the somebody else.
Maybe we should have a blooper reel.
Hey, folks, we are back again, and we're excited to be with you this week with another episode of our podcast. Hanging out with Stephen Ingram and Melissa Rao as we jump in today. And in just a few moments, we're going to talk about Advent a little bit, and we've got some ideas of how you might be able to incorporate your family into Advent traditions and how your church may be able to incorporate them in the Advent process. We're about 2 to 3 weeks out from Advent beginning right now. It's hard to believe, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, hard to believe that we're that close to Christmas already. Fall has just flown by. It's been a blur for me. How has y'all's fall been? What's been going on in your world? Do you guys kind of celebrate, decorate, go to an apple farm, or what do you do?
Yeah, that's fun. Great question. I was just up a little north from where we live, and I saw this amazing pumpkin patch, but it was like one of those roadside stands, and it said, pick all you can pick and wagon for like $13. And I mean, a pretty decent sized wagon. I'm like, man, if only I had the time to stop, I would have totally pulled over there, because I love fall. It's my favorite season. I love the orange is my favorite color. And so oranges and reds and yellows, and I just love it. So yeah, I like decorating. I like mums. I like all that stuff.
Yeah, down here in Alabama, it still doesn't really feel like fall yet. It is. I think our high today is 87, so that's not awesome. So I'm waiting on fall to get here. I can't wait. It's going to be great when it gets here in December. So,
and how many
when it gets here? We go from summer to like 2 weeks of fall, and then it generally gets really cold. And by really cold, I mean, dropping down in the 30s, at night, and 50s during the day. So that's cold for Birmingham. Don't shake your head. I know you live up north, Melissa. Don't be a cold snob, Melissa. All right.
So, Sticky Faith has got a lot of traction over the past few years, and rightly so, right? That families engaging in the faith of their children is an important piece to their faith development. Probably, whether we recognize it or not, probably the primary place that faith development is actually taking place beyond your child's involvement in ministry, all that sort of stuff. So with Advent coming up, what are some things you've seen churches do, or maybe you even do in your own church, that is really a good way to engage families in the Advent season?
A couple of things that I love to see. One is, it feels like in churches, Thanksgiving through Advent is just a great opportunity to find excuses for families to come together. We do a couple things at the church I work at. One of my favorites is that we will do a couple of our Wednesday nights. We'll do kind of bigger family meals together. We always do family meals on Wednesday nights, but we'll kind of do some special ones leading up to Advent. And one of the nights we do the big family meal, and then we go into our contemporary worship space, and we have started this tradition of watching Charlie Brown Christmas together. And I don't know how long it's been since you watched Charlie Brown Christmas, but it has some pretty beautiful gospel messages in it, and I think it helps kind of reframe the season in kind of a fun family way. But again, I think it has some awesome messages. One of the things that we do in our family is around the first week of November. My wife and I will sit down, and we'll bring our calendars. We'll bring what's going on in the community that's sort of Christmas or Advent related, what's going on in our church, and we'll bring our calendars together, and we will create a kind of 25 days of Christmas. It's not the full Advent, but 25 days of Christmas for our family. And we make an Advent calendar where the kids each day will go and pull out a rolled up slip of paper that says what we're going to do that day. And so for us, it ranges in everything from going to the Alabama theater and watching a Christmas movie together one night. They show Christmas movies on the weekends, to one of the things that we do that I love. One of the nights we will have 5 candles on our dinner table, and one for each of us. And we will take turns lighting our candle and talk about what are the things that bring light into our worlds. It's just a beautiful time of sharing. And it's really neat because every single person around the table ends up talking about another person around the table as being one of the things that brings light into their world. And so we have like 25 of these things. Some of them are big, like going to a movie at the Alabama theater. Others are things like missional kind of stuff where we pack homeless bags and take them downtown. So it's fun, family fun. It's missional. It's meaningful. It's making a gingerbread house. It's kind of everything under the sun, and it kind of reorders our holiday for us.
I want to join your family, Steve.
I love that.
We have a lot of fun.
I know, but you know what? If we did that, I would probably make one of mine like clean your bedroom, because we have to prepare for baby Jesus. I'm just teasing. I love awful. That. I know.
They're gonna hate Christmas because of you. When Jesus comes, we have to clean our room.
We have to do some testing.
Right, yeah.
All right, on a serious note, I think Advent might be one of my favorite times. My favorite all-time liturgical celebration is Pentecost, and then Easter, and then Advent. I think even more so than Christmas itself, because I love the preparation and the contemplative time that it is. It's not nearly as heavy as Lent is, but and so one of the things that I like to do is enjoy it. I know this sounds a little cliche, but there's nothing more that I look forward to than making our Advent wreath with the kids. And I think it's a great way for the church to kind of come alongside. I mean, it's awesome when you get the fresh greens, and I'm not talking about those silly little, fake Advent wreaths or whatever. I mean, they're great. If that's all you got to work with it. It's great. I'm not not a hater on the fake stuff. It's better than nothing. But the churches that I've seen really kill it are the ones who are bringing in fresh greens, boxwood and holly and pine and all the different types of evergreens that exist. And then just putting them all out, with the holly. And it's just so great that the kids can learn how to make those fresh wreaths. But we can't do it without the older folks in the church, because they're the ones who can help them make a decent looking wreath. And it's fun. And so I kind of feel like that in and of itself, that Advent wreath workshop is something that my kids look forward to. I look forward to. It's just one of those things that churches do really, really well.
Yeah, Mary Liz, my wife, and I just sit down usually the last week of October, the first week of November, because that's when all the schedules are out for Christmas, and that's when we kind of understand our calendar a little better and all that. So we kind of bring all those resources together. The kids actually don't do it with us. We do it. It's a surprise. So every morning from December 1 through Christmas Day, the kids, the very first thing they do when they wake up and they're all awake, they go and we have a big cloth Advent calendar that Mary Liz made because she's crazy crafty and good and cool. And it has little pockets on it with the day numbers on it. And so they'll reach into the pocket and pull out the little rolled up piece of paper that says what we're doing that day. And so yeah, it's just it's a family tradition that we started a few years ago, but we write them all and put them in a little thing. Usually, we don't put them in the thing, but we write them all usually the first week of November.
Awesome. I love that. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I will
Brian,
say
what do
one
you
piece
do?
of advice on it.
What was that, Stephen?
I was going to say one piece of advice on it is have a few things that are big, and then the rest of the things need to be small. Because what you don't want to
Sure.
do is overpack and overbook Advent, Christmas season, because that in a lot of ways defeats the purpose. So really simple things will populate the majority of it. And Christmas Eve, our thing is that we sit down and we read the nativity story together. So populate with simple things.
That.
Don't stretch yourself out.
Yeah, and
That's great.
I really,
Brian, do you have any cool traditions?
part of it for us is at the beginning of Advent season, always bringing a Christmas tree into the house, and it gets to some of what you mentioned a minute ago, Melissa, about building the wreaths with the fresh greens. Some of it for us, I think, is ritual, because as soon as the tree comes in, it creates this smell in the house, and that begins, it's multi-sensory in a sense, and begins to trigger thoughts about Christmas and what that is. In that it's bigger than the consumer kind of Christmas that we're so wrapped up into, even sometimes in churches where we miss the entire Advent process, sadly at times, right? Where it's not being practiced. And that's what I love about what Stephen's talking about is taking that practice into your home, beyond just the thing that we're doing Sunday morning. It still seems like every year around Advent, people say, why are we talking about that? That doesn't seem to fit into the Christmas story. And it just kind of always triggers a little bit of frustration from me. The thing I love about what some churches do is inviting families to light the candle during the Advent season, to come forward as a group rather than just an individual or a parent or just a child, but bringing the entire family unit forward, I think is immensely important in the life of the church, because we embrace multi-generations in that moment. Certainly it's not polished. If to have a 3-year-old kind of read the scripture, even if they've practiced, if you're looking for something perfect, this is going to seem like a mess. But I think there's a real beauty having a child read the scripture and skip words and mess up the sentences and read it backwards and all that good stuff. There's a real good joy in that as we prepare for the coming of the Christ. I don't know. I love seeing that. My wife and I, we don't have any of our own Advent practices, and sadly, I feel like I'm confessing that in the middle of this, and I'm already thinking like, okay, we got to get a calendar. We got to do something beyond just buying a Christmas tree.
Yeah. Well, don't beat yourself up too much. I'm reminded of a story. It was something about the way we did Christmas or prepared. And, when we talk about Santa Claus, it just, to me, it muddies it up a little bit. And let me tell you, my kids believed in Santa Claus. The youngest is 10. So we're now through that tradition. But one year it broke my heart when my son was being scolded for doing something. He was, a little kid, and he did something that was probably out of line. I don't even remember what it was, but he said something so shocking to me. He said, well, it doesn't matter if Santa comes because I don't deserve Christmas. As in, like, he was told, like, if you're naughty, Santa isn't going to bring presents. And he was okay with that because he didn't deserve Christmas. And it was just so shocking to me that the little kid, the way we did it, he was equating Christmas with Santa Claus and Christmas presents. And obviously we didn't do our job as a parent to kind of teach, or maybe we could have done a better job in teaching him more about what Christmas was really about. And it's just, gosh, it broke my heart. All of those things, all of those themes, I think can muddy Advent. And so I'm just grateful for Stephen, the fact that he had something. I think it's easy and it's good and it's grounding and it helps in a way that's meaningful to them, but also just so awesome in the season. I'm done rambling now.
No, I'll say for us, obviously we're creating these nights for our kids and us as a family, but the truth of the matter is, I think it reframes everything for my wife and I too, because I think even more so than the kids, we need to be reminded, because as a parent, it's so easy to get wrapped up in, oh, we got to buy these presents and we've got to do these activities and we've got to be at this Christmas play. And, it's so easy, especially if you work at church, to get wrapped up in. And there's just as much of the kind of commercial consumer piece in church as there is outside of church. I mean, you can have so many different Christmas programs scheduled at your church that everyone gets run ragged by trying to do a Jesus kind of thing. And so for us, it kind of helps reframe for us as parents as well.
Yeah. I'm reminded of one of the traditions our own church does, and it's hanging of the green. Single year, all the folks get together and do hanging of the green. And, I have to say, I've seen it be joyful and I've seen it be obligatory. I've seen churches do it in a way that is incorporating all the children, all the families, in a way that is coming from, I think, a spirit of abundance and just doing the work out of joy. But then I've also seen other churches do it like, all right, it's that time of year again. We have to decorate the church. And only a few people do it. And so we have, I think, missed out on creating a space and including and inviting all families to do it. So I think that's something else too, is what do you do to decorate your church? Are you showing anything, signs? Is there a way that you can incorporate families in doing that? And how can you make it joyful rather than obligatory? It's kind of a good question churches can ask themselves.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb for churches is during both Lent and Advent is less is better. Sometimes we get into this trap that of thinking that we've got to provide all these opportunities, all these programs, all these different ways. You just don't. Figure out the few things you're going to do that are really going to mark the season, that are really going to help folks be together as families, be together as a church, that will help folks slow down. I mean, I think if we understand the church as a countercultural institution, which I think it is, especially during the holidays, especially during Christmas, one of the most countercultural things I think we can do as the church is to provide them opportunities to slow down and to not rush and to not be so busy and to not just play into the manic kind of nature of December.
It sounds like you're suggesting that maybe a choral concert, a children's musical, youth choir performance, right, Christmas parties for every age group, and then your small group Christmas may be too much.
That's right.
And at minimum, if you expect all your folks to do all of those things, you take away the time that they have to kind of embrace some rituals within their own family units.
One of the things that I would encourage is try to do them during regularly scheduled times. So if you are going to do a Christmas cantata or something like that, do it on a Wednesday night if you have Wednesday night church, or try to do things on Sunday morning, or whenever you have regular scheduled service times or gathering times, try to fit them into those times instead of putting it on a Tuesday night or a Friday night and taking up more of folks' weeks. I think you'll have more success that way too.
Yeah.
It's a great point. I love that.
Well, folks, if you've got questions about Advent, feel free to reach out to us. We actually love your questions. And next week's episode is going to be centered on a few questions that we received about committees, probably prompted by a couple discussions we had earlier I'll say earlier this year, but probably sometime in the last 8 weeks or so, when we talked about committees a little bit. So we're going to spend some time doing that. We love to field your questions. We love to hear what's going on in your worlds. So if you have those, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach me at bryant@ministryarchitects.com or on Facebook, facebook.com/Bryant Johnson. Melissa, where can folks reach out to you, and where should they send their questions?
Yeah, so you can either tweet me at Melissa Rao, super easy, 1 L, 2 S's, or you can email me at melissa@ministryarchitects.com.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you to come hang out with me over at www.12stonespirituality.com, or you can email me at Stephen, STEPHN.Ingram at ministryarchitects.com, or Stephen at ministryarchitects.com. Sorry.
That's awesome.
Still not used to that.